What is going on? I really wanted to get this video out last week, but I was having too much damn fun with it. So I'm going to get it out right now for you guys. That way you can go ahead and use it in the new GM, new weekly rotating GM, which is Warden of Nothing. And I was using it in there, and it is still rock solid in there. But for everybody saying that, oh man, Titans are lacking, well, I can tell you one thing, they are not. This build pretty much will insta-delete any champion on the battlefield. You basically don't have to stun them except for unstoppables. We'll get into some of the damage testing numbers. But what this build will synergize around is Peregrine Greaves. When I was running around using this build, I even had one of my buddies say, hey, dude, I want to know this build. You need to share it because that looks like too much fun. And it is a lot of fun. But the Peregrine Greaves build is going to be on Void Titan, okay? Their reason why is there's some synergies along with some of the artifact stuff that just makes it really simple on Void Titan. I am trying to make one work on Prismatic Titan. We'll see if I can get that to work. But for now, I think Void Titan is just super solid to run this. And so let's take a look at what the build is. So in understanding what Peregrine Greaves are, it's kind of used across all three of the subclass Titans, you know, the Arc, Solar, Void, you know, the traditional subclass Titans. And what this does is the Peregrine Strike. All shoulder charge abilities, Seismic Strike, Hammer Strike, or Shield Bash, we will be demoing Shield Bash here, deal bonus damage when activated in the air, damaging mini bosses, tormentors, or champions with your shoulder charge refunds your melee. Provides a small benefit to the airborne effectiveness stat of all weapons. Now, I haven't really tested this on tormentors, but I can tell you that for mini bosses and champions, it absolutely annihilates them. And then for your subclass, really you're going to be looking for two aspects, Bastion and Offensive Bulwark. Okay, so those two will synergize perfectly for this build. And then for your fragments, it's kind of up to you for most part. There's not too much that you really got to do here. There's some Echo of Starvation, you know, pick up a, you know, Void Breach or an Orb of Power. Mostly going to be showing off Orb of Power. Grants Devour, that really kind of helps with survivability after you strike a champion. And we will be generating an Orb of Power after we strike a champion. I'll show you that here in just a second. And then you have Echo of Undermining. Void Grenades weaken targets. That'll just help with damage, but it is not needed. Echo of Persistence. Void buffs applied to you. Invisibility, Overshield, and Devour have increased duration. This one, it's not necessarily a must, but I would highly recommend this one. This one is almost a must, but it's not. And then you have Echo of Obscurity. You can actually swap this off for just about anything else. I was just kind of having fun getting finishers and getting my invisibility and just kind of going around using Peregrine Greaves, and it was kind of a crazy good time. But you can kind of roll this off for something else, like Final Blows when you're surrounded by combatants, grant super energy, you know, Echo of Reprisal. So there's plenty of different ways you can kind of go rotating off Echo of Obscurity, but I like the Void Invisibility aspect of that. You can get into a pretty good loop with Echo of Exchange, where melee Final Blows grant grenade energy, since you're going to be getting, well, melee Final Blows with your Shield Bash. You have Echo Leeching here. Your melee Final Blow starts health regeneration for you and nearby allies. It also gives you that plus 10 resilience, which is kind of nice, but I don't really care for the health regeneration because I'm using Echo of Starvation and getting my Devour from there. So I'm not really too worried about that, but you know, that is some flexibility that you also have there. And then you also have this Echo of Harvest, where you defeat a weakened target, creates an Orb of Power and a Void Breach. This is kind of nice, as you can definitely be using your grenade to weaken said enemy and then, you know, shoulder charge them, and then you'd be able to get an Orb of Power and Void Breach. And then that would actually be like 2 Orbs of Power, because we'll generate another one from our gauntlets. So there's definitely some flexibility there in the fragment area. As far as abilities, definitely Rally Barricade, just because it's got a much shorter cooldown. 38 seconds compared to a minute 10. And Shield Bash. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're using. Shield Bash, that's going to work with our Peregrine Greaves. As far as Grenade, it's really kind of up to you. I would go with something with a really low base cooldown. I was actually messing around with Suppressor Grenade because, well, it stuns Overload champions. And since I'm going to throw my grenade to weaken them anyways, might as well just have them stun from the grenade. And that way I don't really have to worry about shooting a weapon at them. But I prefer to have a weapon just to make sure that the stun does get done. But the most important thing here, I would say, is have one with a low base cooldown. The main part of the grenade with the build is to get weaken onto whatever enemy you are going to be hitting. So that would be the main thing there. I'd just pick one with a low base cooldown. And then as far as your super, Twilight Arsenal is what I'm using. You can definitely go another route, but Twilight Arsenal is not really a big deal. I just like it's pretty easy, throw it out there, and I don't really have to worry about it all that much. It's pretty good high damage for a one target like a boss. And real quick, before we look at mods on the armor, we will be taking a look at artifact mods. Expanding Abyss, Void Sources deal increased damage to weakened targets. And Shield Crush, while you have Woven Mail, Frost Armor, or a Void Overshield, your melee recharges faster and deals increased damage. While you are Amplified or Radiant, your grenade recharges faster and deals increased damage. So the top part is the main one there. Your melee recharges faster and deals increased damage when you have a Void Overshield. That's kind of what we're going to get using Bastion and the Rally Barricade. So those two together will help increase damage, but I'll show you what you absolutely are going to want to have right now. So we're going to do a little damage test here, and starting off with just base Shield Bash. Nothing else kind of added into it. You're going to do 25,269 damage. Offensive Bulwark added on top of Shield Bash, 49,243 damage. If you add in Peregrine Greaves, no Offensive Bulwark, 201,079. And if you do Peregrine Greaves and Weaken, it will be 231,046. Peregrine Greaves and Offensive Bulwark will be 386,781. Peregrine Greaves, Offensive Bulwark, and Weaken will be 444,798. Peregrine Greaves, Offensive Bulwark, and Shield Crush will do a total damage of 483,476. And if you do Peregrine Greaves, Weaken with Expanding Abyss, 241,748. And if we take all of it together, if we take Peregrine Greaves, Offensive Bulwark, Weaken, Expanding Abyss, and Shield Crush, you will do a total damage of 604,370. Now, all this damage test was done on an overload in the Warden of Nothing Grandmaster, so keep that in mind if you go in and out of higher level difficulties or things where you might be under leveled. And if you want to know what the damage of everything would be without Peregrine Greaves, it would be 76,217. So if you're doing this build, Peregrine Greaves is going to be a must. So just some quick referencing of kind of some damage increases that I kind of noticed. Offensive Bulwark was providing about 92 to 95% increase on damage. Peregrine Greaves increased your damage 796%. Weakened Grenade is obviously going to be a plus 15%. Expanding Abyss is going to be 5% on top of whatever additional weaken effects are already being applied. So if you tether an enemy, it will do an additional 5% on top of tether, which I believe tether does 30% currently. So if you did Expanding Abyss on top of tether, it would be 35%. And then Shield Crush was providing an extra 25% damage increase. So in doing the damage testing, the two that were clearly needed to be paired together, which is great news because this build will work even after our current season and the artifact mods go away, was Peregrine Greaves and Offensive Bulwark paired together. That was one-shotting the Overload champion that I was doing damage testing on. Now here's a quick summary of all the damage numbers that we kind of had, that we kind of just went through. That way you can kind of see the recap there. But I know a lot of people are very much not happy with the place the Titans are, but Titans are still really strong in many parts of the game, especially Grandmasters. I think the one area that they are probably lacking the most is with Prismatic Titan and at Final Boss of Salvation's Edge Raid. So outside of those two kind of spots, Titans are still really strong. And this was by far the most fun build I was using over the past week doing GMs. This was just absolutely fantastic, just running around and just being a nuke. And with my current build, using the invisibility, you got to get a finisher to get the invisibility. But if you got a hunter that will get you invis, this was a lot of fun because you're able to go out there and get champs without them kind of shooting you and stuff like that. So you need to make sure, though, when using this build, that if you are going to be using offensive bulwark, that damage increase from offensive bulwark comes from having the overshield. And I know I didn't go into the aspects, but offensive bulwark, while you have an overshield or are inside Ward of Dawn, your grenade charges significantly faster, and you will notice that one. You have increased melee range and damage, and melee final blows restore a small portion of your overshield and extend its duration. That is crucial because as you get those kills with your shield bash, you will notice you do get your overshield back, and you can go do it again. You can keep the loop going. And just to cover the bases, Bastion, cast your super to grant an overshield to nearby allies. Not really interested in that part, but casting your barricade grants overshield to protect yourself and nearby allies and empowers it, enabling it to slowly regenerate the overshield of allies bunkering behind it and extend their overshield duration. So understanding the whole loop of putting down your rally barricade, stunning whatever champion you need to stun, and I would highly recommend stunning your champions before you go in for the shield crush. You don't need to, and I was one-hitting mini overloads last week in Glassway without stunning them. I was doing plenty of damage, but a lot of those overloads, they do teleport around, so sometimes it is kind of tough and you will miss from time to time. So making sure that they are stunned is really kind of beneficial, just to make sure you can get them off the battlefield really fast with a shield bash. So put down your rally barricade, you get your overshield, stun the champ. You can throw your grenade and get the weaken onto them, or you can just go in for the shield bash. You'll have plenty of damage to do that. And on that note, if you are using a weakened grenade and all the other effects, but you don't have your barricade quite up yet, you don't need it. Throw your grenade and then go for the shield bash, and you'll be able to get them off the battlefield. Now, as far as mods that I'm using across my Titan, there's not a lot, but one of the few things that you definitely want to make sure you are kind of generating is some orbs of power. One, you can get Devour, but the other one is you're able to get your melee back, right? So heavy-handed was actually really beneficial. Whenever you powered melee final blows, creates an orb of power. So that was really kind of nice to have. And then having impact induction was also kind of nice. And other things like that. I'm not going to go too much into mods here. It's because it really kind of goes for you and what you feel like you need, but feel free to swap out the mods. I'll leave a dim link down below to the build, and yeah, swap it out to whatever you feel like you need. Last week, it was kind of an easy week to kind of hide behind cover, get your rally barricade down, and then stun a champ, go out there, get the kill. It wasn't too complicated as far as that goes. There might be some weeks where it's not as much cover, and maybe you're going to want to get that invisibility finisher and stuff like that. So in those cases, you might want to change up some of your mods. Here on the legs, insulation, maybe going with invigoration, stuff like that. Definitely changes around to kind of suit whatever you need. And also your armor stats might be different than mine. I was able to get my barricade back pretty quick, so that wasn't really ever a problem either. So yeah, I would just make sure that you're able to generate an orb of power, definitely off the arms. Have heavy-handed on. That will get you your Devour from your fragment. That way you can also then keep your overshield and things kind of rolling, and you go do another one. There was one time last week where I went and got all 4 barrier champs in the final boss room in one go. So it was a lot of fun running this. I hope you go have fun and run this. It is a blast. And I'm going to try and make a prismatic build of this work. Alrighty, take care.